Hello and welcome to IP Study video lectures. Today we are going to discuss chapter number 16 of grade 8 social science. The chapter name is the Indian Constitution. I am sure you are very familiar with this great personality. Yes, he is Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. A great freedom fighter, a great thinker and a very renowned politician. For his contribution in framing of the Indian Constitution, he is often regarded as the father of the Indian Constitution. I am sure you have heard this term many times before, Constitution. Whenever we are discussing topics like equality, rights, directive principles, we often quote this word. Our Constitution gives us these rights, or our Constitution asks us to follow certain fundamental duties, and so on. So what exactly is a constitution? A constitution is a set of rules that governs how a particular society or a country is going to be governed, right? So in simple words, it is the supreme law of the land. It means that all the people living in a certain region or a certain country have to follow these rules, right? So for India as well, when we got independent on 15th August 1947, the most important task was how we are going to govern ourselves. The entire national struggle, the entire freedom struggle was based on the idea of Swaraj, self-rule. Basically for 200 years it was the British government that was making decisions for us, but after independence we had to make decisions for ourselves. And that is not a very straightforward idea. Imagine in such a large country like India, in such a diverse country like India, it is not easy to make common laws, common rules for everyone in the country. There are different positions like that of a Prime Minister, the President. There are different lawmaking bodies like Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha in the central government, and Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad in the state government. Now what responsibilities will they have? What functions are they going to perform, or how we are going to elect the Prime Minister, how we are going to elect the members of the Parliament? These are not simple questions. We had to plan out each and everything, and that is why we see our Constitution, which is the largest written constitution in the world, specifies everything. It predicted all the future problems that we are going to have, and it has tried to provide solutions for all those problems, right? So Constitution, as we discussed, is a set of rules, and it is not mandatory that it is going to be in a written form. In countries like United Kingdom, we see that the constitution is not written. It is the oral constitution which is being followed. But yes, for convenience, we will see that around the world, most of the constitutions are in the written form, right? So for India, we started writing our constitution in the year 1946 itself. Yes, we were going to get freedom the next year, but we knew that the British were about to quit our country, and we knew we are going to govern ourselves. So we started framing our constitution in the year 1946 itself. After we got partitioned in 1947, that body, the Constituent Assembly, also got partitioned, where some members stayed in India framing the constitution for India, while others went to Pakistan framing the constitution for their country, right? So between 1946 and 1949, this constitution was being framed. On 26 November 1949, finally, the constitution was framed in its full capacity. It was the date when all the members of the Constituent Assembly actually signed the constitution, saying that they were involved in the framing of the constitution, right? So yes, we discussed about the role of B.R. Ambedkar. he was the chairman of the drafting committee of the constitution. So he took very important decisions. He played a very important leadership role in the framing of the constitution. Now look at this. You might have seen this document in many books, many magazines. What exactly it is? It is the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Now, what is a preamble? A preamble basically means an introductory statement of a document. Like any book you have, every book has some kind of a preface. That preface tells you what is the main objective of this book, how this book is going to be read, how this book is going to be interpreted. So all these things, right? Similarly, for our constitution, there is a preamble. It is an introductory statement where the basic ideas, the central ideas of our constitution, of our country are highlighted. Right? So these are the basic principles that we as Indians believe. So they are highlighted in this constitution, in this preamble, and we will discuss this preamble in the next chapter in detail. Right? Moving on to the next topic, need for laws. Now, laws are basic rules that are meant for everyone to follow. They are meant to protect us. Now, many of you would say we don't like following rules, right? We want to break rules, we want to live freely and all that. But if you think deeply, you will understand that these laws are meant only to protect you. Take example of your teacher who always tells you don't run in the corridor. It's not like your teacher is against running, but she or he knows that while running in the corridors, you may get hurt, right? They will encourage you to run in the playground. They will encourage you to participate in races, right? If you love running, but don't run in the corridor. That simple rule is there not to offend them, not to protect them, but to protect you. So these laws that we are asked to follow, we are asked to abide to, these are made to protect us only. Right? Let's take example of one such act, one such law that is important for us to understand, and that is Dowry Prohibition Act. Now, let us understand briefly what exactly is dowry. Dowry is the money or the gifts that the bride's family, the girl's family, gives to the boys or the groom's family. Why this practice of dowry was so prevalent in our country, in fact in many Eastern societies if you see, the reason was before 2005, if we look at our country, before the Hindu Succession Amendment Act of 2005, the property of the father was only given to the male children of the family. So there was nothing for the girl. So because of that, whenever the girl used to get married, there was some kind of gift, some kind of money that was given by the girl's family to the boy's family. If you look at it conceptually, it might not sound that wrong. But remember one quotation: there is enough on this earth for everyone's need, but not enough for anyone's greed. With time, this concept of dowry became a greed for the boy's family, where they asked for more and more gifts, more and more money from the girl's family, and when the girl was not able to give so much gifts or so much money, then it created tensions in the marriage, and that girl, that bride, was often humiliated by the boy's family. Right? So it was a very deep problem, very major problem in our society. So to get out of this problem, we had the Dowry Prohibition Act, which was implemented in the year 1961. Right? As time changed, there were changes that were made in this law as well. Like in 1984, for the first time, taking and giving of dowry was made a punishable offense. Right? You could be imprisoned or fined for this particular crime. And even further, if we look at 1986, this law, under this law, the imprisonment was up to 5 years. That's a long time if you consider. Imprisonment was not only for the boy but also his parents in case they are found guilty of this crime. So we see that there was a problem in the Indian society, and to fix that particular problem, our lawmakers came up with a new law to deal with that problem. And not only did they come with that law, with time they also made provisions, they also made changes to that law, so that with the new time the law is still relevant. See, you have updates in your smartphones, right? Why do you have that? So that your mobile phone runs smoothly. Similarly, if a country has to run smoothly, there has to be systematic changes that have to come from time to time. So similarly, laws are also changed from time to time, just so that we make pace with the current time, right? So I hope you understand this topic of through this topic of Dowry Amendment Act to understand the importance of laws. Now, next important concept is rule of law. Rule of law is a very important principle when we talk about establishing equality in a country. The rule of law states that nobody is above the law. For any particular offense, if one person A gets a particular punishment, person B will also get that particular punishment. It's not about the fact that person A is rich and the person B is poor. It does not matter. It does not matter which religion they follow. It does not matter which caste they belong to. The rule of law means that they have to be treated equally in a fair manner. And if you understand the importance of establishing rule of law, it is to ensure that there is no dictatorship and no anarchy. Dictatorship means a single person's rule, and anarchy means when there is lawlessness, there is no rules. So we don't want a society where there is no rules, because that means only the people who are mighty, who are super rich maybe, or who are maybe very muscular, then they are going to take away the rights of people who may not be as strong physically or maybe quite poor. So we do not want a society like that, right? So I hope we have understood a little bit about the importance of laws. And when we talk about constitution, it is actually a set of those laws which govern the country. So we will cover that topic in this. It's a very short chapter, so we will quickly wrap this up and understand the need of a constitution in a country, right? So in our previous topic, we discussed how laws are important for the smooth functioning of a society and a country. So basically we say that that laws help people, they safeguard people from different situations that they do not want to face. What are these situations? Say there is a very strong leader. That leader is popular among the masses, and that leader may or may not have good intentions. So that person might want to change the constitution very often, or make rules after rules to serve his or her interest. You do not want a situation like that. You do not want a dictator. You do not want a tyrant who is telling you always what you have to do. It has happened in countries like Germany, where Hitler was democratically elected by the people, but he turned out to be a dictator. So you do not want a situation like that, and for that you need a strong constitution. You also need a strong constitution to ensure that the majority does not dominate over minority, right? So in many cases it happens that the majority, the people who are more in number, dominate over the minority. They make rules in a way that actually hurt the minority. So we do not want a situation like that. We also do not want our government to make rules which go against our fundamental nature, the ideals of our country. So for that also we need a strong constitution, where the basic structure of our constitution should not be changed by the amendments, by the different changes which are made by different leaders. So to ensure, overall, to ensure that the rights of people are protected, our constitution framers have made our constitution in such a strong manner that yes, there is scope for changing it, there is scope for making adjustments according to the time, for improving the constitution, but not to change the fundamental ideas, the principles of the constitution, because these are the things like equality, things like justice, ideas like freedom, liberty. These are the things we strongly believe in and we do not want to change them, right? So that is the basic idea for this chapter, and I hope you enjoyed this video lecture. In our next lecture, we will discuss in detail what exactly are the ideals of the Indian Constitution. So we will meet again in that particular video lecture. Till then, keep learning and see you again.